All right, so let's get right into it. We're looking at a situation that is honestly a total contradiction. On one side, you've got this huge international push for peace. We're talking high-stakes talks. And on the other side, at the exact same moment, a major military move out on the open ocean.
And that really brings us to the core question, right? It's a paradox that's got the whole world watching. How do you even prepare for peace talks when you're literally committing an act of war? Can diplomacy survive when the cannons are firing? Let's break it down.
So, where is all this happening? We're on day 52 of this crisis, and the flashpoint is the Strait of Hormuz. We're talking about one of the most vital shipping lanes on the entire planet. This is really where it's all coming to a head.
Okay, first things first. Let's look at the spark that's lighting this whole fire. A really dramatic showdown that just went down at sea.
So how did this all play out? Well, based on what the U.S. military has released, it started with U.S. Marines and helicopters approaching this Iranian cargo ship, the Tuska. They gave it what they called a fair warning to stop. Apparently, the ship didn't listen, so a U.S. Navy ship, and these are President Trump's words, stopped them right in their tracks. They fired on the vessel, blew a hole in the engine room to disable it, and then you've got Marines roping down onto the deck and seizing the ship. I mean, this is a full-on military operation.
You can bet Iran's reaction was fast and furious. They're calling it an act of piracy. Their military has even gone public vowing to retaliate. And this is the key thing, you see, the escalation. We've jumped from a naval blockade to actual live fire and a ship seizure. The stakes just went way, way up. But here's that crazy contradiction again. While all of this is going down at sea, at the very same time, there's this desperate scramble for peace happening back on land.
Yeah, over in Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, the city is basically being turned into a fortress. We're talking barbed wire, thousands of police, army personnel everywhere. And why? They're getting ready to host these massive peace talks between the US and Iran. And remember, the last round of talks fell apart, so the pressure here is absolutely immense.
And this right here is the heart of the problem. It's a total standoff. The US side says, yep, our team's ready to fly. They see seizing the Tuska as just, enforcing their naval blockade, which is basically using warships to block off Iran's ports. But Iran, they're saying, so far we have no plans to go. Their argument is that the US has to lift that blockade before they'll even consider talking. They're calling the whole thing an American charade. And you've got to remember, this is built on a very long history of deep, deep mistrust.
And it all comes back to one place, the Strait of Hormuz. See, this isn't just some bit of water. For Iran, it's a strategic weapon. They've weaponized their control over this strait. It's their #1 bargaining chip, their way of fighting back against crippling economic sanctions. It's their economic lifeline, plain and simple.
And this quote, man, it just perfectly sums up their position. Someone asked a top Iranian official, the chairman of their parliament's National Security Committee, hey, will you ever give up control of the Strait of Hormuz? And his answer was so blunt, certainly not. We believe this is our inalienable right. You can't get much clearer than that. There's zero wiggle room.
Now, it's super important to remember, this isn't happening in a vacuum. The whole region is just simmering with other conflicts. Any one of them could boil over and make this situation even more complicated, pulling everyone's attention away at the worst possible time.
Take Lebanon, for example. There's supposedly a 10-day truce between Israel and Hezbollah. But let's be real, the fighting hasn't really stopped. Israel is still launching strikes, and its troops are still occupying about 5% of Lebanese land. That's a constant source of tension that could blow up again at any second.
And just to show you how fragile this whole thing is, the Israeli military is telling Lebanese civilians, hey, don't go back to your homes in the south. I mean, that's a pretty clear signal that they think the fighting could kick off again at any moment.
And then there's this. An image started circulating of an Israeli soldier destroying a statue of Jesus in southern Lebanon. It caused a huge outcry, so much so that the Israeli Prime Minister himself had to come out and condemn it. It's just another one of those things that destabilizes the region and forces leaders to put out fires at home when they should be focused on what's happening internationally.
On top of all that, a BBC investigation dropped, and it's raising some serious questions about possible insider trading connected to the White House. They found these weird spikes in financial trades happening right before President Trump made major announcements, including one that shifted the oil markets during this very crisis with Iran. It just adds this whole other layer of political drama and makes you wonder about the motives behind some of these decisions.
Okay, so let's put it all together. What do we got?
We have these incredibly powerful forces pulling in completely opposite directions. The whole region is just balanced on a knife's edge.
So on the one hand, you have the side pulling for peace. You've got Pakistan all in, getting ready to host. You've got the U.S. saying their vice president is ready to go. The last time they talked face-to-face was the highest-level meeting since 1979. That's a huge deal. Plus, Iran really needs those economic sanctions lifted. And, they don't want to be seen as the ones who walked away from the table.
But then, pulling just as hard, if not harder, in the other direction, are the forces pushing towards war. You've got the U.S. seizing that Iranian ship and Iran promising to get even. You have that deep, fundamental disagreement over the naval blockade. And of course, Iran's absolute hard line on controlling the Strait of Hormuz. Throw in all those other conflicts simmering around the region, and you've got a perfect storm.
And that brings us right back to where we started. When you have diplomacy and military force colliding like this, which one breaks first? Because something's got to give. History tells us one of them will. The big question is, which one?